watching Beyond Markets. Justice Minister Jeff Radebe has called for the Farlam Commission's rules on paying for dead miners' families to attend the inquiry to be amended. This after the department said on Saturday it would no longer fund the attendance at the Commission's hearing in Rustenburg of the families of 34 miners killed in a police shooting at Marikana on August 16th. Now, joining us to provide more clarity is Commission spokesperson Kevin Malunga. Kevin, give us clarity. What is the factual position now? Is the Department of Justice going to continue the funding of the families of the victims of the people killed at Marikana?
Yes, that's correct. Essentially, the minister basically, as the final authority in this matter, actually, literally overruled everything else that had been said in this regard, and decided that there must be an amendment to the regulations of the commission to allow for support to families who want to. Because you will note that the statement that came out over the weekend was to the effect that there is no legal basis to do this, which creates problems even from an accountability standpoint, from PFMA and other sort of legislation that deals with how you spend public money.
Now,
so
Kevin,
yes.
Kevin, let me come in there. These amendments that the minister is talking about, how soon will they be drafted? And in the interim, where there's no legal requirement for these families to be financially assisted, what happens in the interim? Do you give them cash in hand? Does the money go to the lawyers? And how much money are we talking about?
There is no interim because the amendments were drafted this morning. So it's literally an additional few lines basically to the law to say that you can provide for families who are affected by this thing to participate, because remember the regulations only allow for the witnesses to be supported and granted a witness fee. So we are already up good to go because the regulations were drafted and finalized by close of business today for submission to the presidency.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, Kevin, unfortunately we've run out of time. We've got to leave it there for now. We lost some time there when the line dropped earlier. That was Kevin Malunga. He's the spokesman for the Farlam Commission into the killings of those miners in Marikana on August 16th. To Nigeria now. Senior Nigeria officials of the Nigerian state of Bayelsa are promoting to other African countries, particularly South Africa, investment partnership opportunities focused on the development of the state. To tell us more, I'm joined in the studio by Patmore Iyabe, who is the Commissioner in the Ministry of Finance in Bayelsa. Sorry for that mistake in the pronunciation. Thank you so much for joining us. I understand that you've been meeting both government and private sector individuals in South Africa over the last few days, trying to encourage, of course, investors to come to your particular area in Nigeria. Take us through what your message to them was.
What we came to South Africa was to explain to the South African public and the business community the vision of our leader, the governor of Bayelsa State, His Excellency Henry Sereki Dixon. The vision is targeted at creating a base for oil and gas, and also hubs for transportation, as shipping and aviation in Bayelsa State. In addition to that, we also want to focus on agriculture. Our mission was to tell them that we are open for business and that they can never go wrong doing business in Nigeria through Bayelsa State.
Now, what has been the reception to your message? What has the South African investors that you've met, said? Are they keen? Have they expressed interest? And tell us, who have you been meeting?
We met quite a few companies, the IDC, DBSA, Liberty Group, Legacy Group, and many other companies. I believe that in 10 days' time, DBSA and IDC will come into Bayelsa State. So also is Musa Capital,
So they're going to be coming to your country to come and see for themselves.
Exactly.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, particularly the DBSA and the IDC, we know, is particularly interested in infrastructure spend, and you were speaking about some of the infrastructure that you want to lay out. Now, we know that the, you have one of the largest crude and natural gas deposits in Nigeria, but the state remains poverty-stricken, and there's very little development. What has been the reason for the fact that you're so resource-rich, but your infrastructure and your population of that state remains so poor?
The reason is quite basic, and that is that past governments have not done well in funding infrastructure development in the state. Mm-hmm. What the new government is doing now is ensure that we take the state forward in developing proper infrastructure to support the activities that we want to engage ourselves in years to come. We see South African companies as having the competence to do that for us. We need quality infrastructure. Infrastructure can last the test of time. And that is why we came to South Africa. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of saying that you need quality infrastructure, obviously it's quite important to build links, particularly with companies that can deliver the goods. But what are the kind of potential for South African businesses to team up with their Nigerian counterparts to deliver some of the infrastructure that you require, amongst other things, in Nigeria?
The potential is quite great. In fact, Bielsa alone has set up companies designed to work with South African companies. Mm-hmm. The truth of the matter is that as a growing state, earnings are quite reasonable. You just mentioned that we provide 30% of the oil revenue to the federal government, and we get a share of that. Mm-hmm. We're going to use part of that to support the business structures that work with us, mm-hmm. obviously. And that will go a long way in ensuring that default scenarios will not happen mm-hmm. if we do business with South African companies.
But now, one of the concerns about doing business in a place like Nigeria is, of course, security around things like financial institutions, regulations, the regulatory framework, and so on. What assurances can you give investors that the regulatory framework in the state is of such a nature that investments will in fact be protected, properties will be protected?
Government has opened up investment to outside companies many years back. The banking reforms that happened in 2008, 2009 has ensured that the level of security for funds has increased tremendously. In terms of people losing money in the Nigerian market, that's something that will not happen, I believe, in the near future. There's a lot of protection for investments right now.
Mr. Iyabe, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but lots of good luck with the initiative. I'm sure South African companies will take up the opportunity. Thank you so much for coming into our studio. That was Patmore Iyabe, who is the Commissioner in the Ministry of Finance in Bielsa. Well, that's it for Beyond Markets. Watch Political Exchange this evening when we talk BRICS Development Bank. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.